Hello, everybody. Greetings. Welcome wherever you are watching in the world, wherever you are from. If you're watching live, please do let us know where you are. It's always nice to know where our audience is. And if you're watching live, remember we have a Q&A as usual at the end of our presentation today. So feel free to ask any question at any time. My name is Jim. I'm the host today. I'm the project manager at Catalyfe. But also joining me on screen, you can see, is our health and wellbeing star coach, Britt Normet. Hi, Britt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome.
It's good to see you. It's good to have you back as ever. And I understand that today we have something very special in store. You're going to be talking to us about a fantastic course you have with us.
Indeed, indeed. It's a life-changing.
It's life changing, is it?
Yes.
That's good because well, why not we we'll launch straight into it, but just a quick reminder to anybody watching who hasn't seen any of our webinars before. Um, we can only ever really scratch the surface on the topic, especially as big one as detoxing the body and mind. So what Britt will do today is to give us an introduction into her expertise, and she has many years. She'll tell you how many later. Um, but yes, we can only ever scratch the surface. But the invitation will be made towards the end for you to find out how you can go much deeper with this topic. So let's dive straight in. Britt, you are a Pilates instructor, but you are so much more than that. And I'd be interested if you could tell us a bit about your story, a bit about your background. How did you come to be this true Pilates instructor that you are, and why does it matter to you? How did you get here?
Thank you, Jim, and welcome again, everybody joining us. Um, it's so wonderful to be back here again and sharing everything that I've learned, discovered, and stored in myself during this quite a long life now by now. Very quickly, when I was a child, I was always fascinated by nature and all kinds of natural remedies that I can help myself with. And it's probably due to because my mother was like that. She would cure us always with natural plants and teas and herbal, any kind of mixtures. So it was very natural for me to find help in a nature, in a natural environment. And when I became older, I was really passionate about singing, dancing, and I did my first degree in England. I was a singer and an actor. Actually, I did my first degree in acting, and there I discovered the contemporary dance. And I really fell in love with performance. It's for me, it's the most natural place to be is on the stage, and enjoy spending time with people. And I love one-on-one working with people. So people is my thing. I love being around people. I love being in front of millions or in front of two. I just love people. And I think who I am today is this one big bubble out of all of these things: loving nature, loving natural remedy, becoming an entertainer in all possible ways: music, dance, choreography. I never actually done much acting because I fell in love with contemporary dance,
Mhm.
and so I explored after my acting degree. I actually went to university to also study choreography. And because of the injury I got from dancing ballet, I ended up finding Pilates because of that. I didn't know anything about Pilates, but I moved to Paris to study contemporary dance and be a performer there. I would use my voice as a singer and my body as a tool to communicate all kinds of interesting contemporary ways, communicating the society problems. And I've always been very passionate about society problems,
Mhm.
issues that people face. And so through the contemporary dance, you can express that a lot and maybe give across your point of views or your views on life and problems. And because I had a severe injury in my hips, um, in Paris, when I worked as a dancer, I started to experience pain in my hips, and I felt that I can't dance so freely anymore. Because when I got the injury, I was young and I didn't think much of it. I thought, oh, it must be hard to be a dancer and it's okay to get injuries. And I was trying to be really cool about it. But working in Paris, I realized I started to really become a problem for me, how I moved, how I danced, and it started to cause me pain. And that is actually how I found Pilates, because one choreographer, Claire Filmont, I never forget her name because she is the first key person why I'm here today as a Pilates master. She actually recommended me to try Pilates technique, and she said that her good friend from America is doing the having a studio and doing Pilates, and go and try it. And she was the one who supported me financially and mentally for me to be able to go to Pilates studio every single morning before my dance practices. And that really changed my life, not only because I started to do Pilates, but I actually first experienced the effect of Pilates technique. And the effect was not only physical, it was physical, mental, and emotional. And I think that was one of the things that really engaged me about Pilates. I realized that it's not only a physical we're dealing here with, and that was over 20 years ago. Nobody talked about storing your emotions in your body or like mental and physical cooperating. It was just a physical technique. But I realized that it's not only physical, and I've decided to start to study Pilates. And that's where the journey started.
Wow, that is an incredible journey. And so 20 years ago, you experienced pain from dancing, discovered a technique that you didn't know anything about, and then discovered there's something beneath the technique. And
Yes.
you mentioned just now about, you didn't know anything about the body storing pain. I know we're going to be coming onto that in detail shortly. But what I do know is that you are Estonia's most sought after health and well-being coach because of your reputation, because of being this Pilates master, as you put it. So what have you done with Pilates to make it your own, and what unique elements have you been able to put into your training?
I think the first thing that I really did as a Pilates learner, I've really committed to learn the technique properly. And that was quite a long journey. In the beginning, I from Paris, I came back to Estonia, and I decided to go and study Pilates in a very root of the technique. And that was my lucky moment when I found Romana Krizanovska in America, who was a long time Joseph Pilates student. And she was still alive. She was quite elderly at the time already. She was over 80 years old, but she was in a good health. She was teaching. And I decided that if I studied the technique, I wanted to study it under the best teachers in the world. So I flew to America, and I lived in America over a year and a half, studied the technique. I only focused on studying the technique the full year and a half. I didn't even travel across America. I didn't do much. I was just in focus. And after that, I continued studying. I flew back to America years after that to continue studying under Romana, her daughter, Shari Mejia Santos, etc., all the best masters. So I think the first step for me was to master the technique, because if you really want to help people, you really need to know your tools very well.
Mm-hmm.
And since I tend to be a very thorough person by nature, then I always want to know things to the core. So I decided to go to the very core, and I studied. So it was 2002 when I started to study Pilates, and now it's 2021. So
Almost
it's
22, almost 20
yes,
years. Then. That's
almost
amazing.
22. So it's almost 20 years next year, and it's been a very very great journey. And the other thing, what I really did was I fell in love with the journey, and I think that is the one main aspect that I teach through my webinars and I share through my webinars is the experience of being on the journey. Nobody's perfect from the day one, and nobody's the Olympic athlete after two workouts. It's a journey, and you have to fall in love with a journey and not to expect the outcome too soon, but enjoy being on the journey and giving this time and focus on yourself or on others, depending which way you're thinking about it. So the journey is the most important thing.
And part of that journey has seen you not only master the techniques and bring your own psycho-spiritual element into your teachings, into your webinars, but you also have your own studio. But now you're also bringing your journeys into online programs, and that's how our paths crossed. And well, professionally, apart from the World Cleanup Day stuff, but our paths crossed when it became clear that you were interested in producing courses for people like this 11-day retreat that you have. So I know you want to talk about the content of that specific course today. So what I understand you've done is to create an 11-day program addressing some very specific elements, which are all connected and that many of us will relate very well to, especially people like me, because here I am, I'm sat in a chair in an office environment for hours on end looking at a screen. Tell us what you have for people like me.
Well, first, I want to share this great thing that I've discovered throughout the 20 years. I've had the privilege to live in a very different, on a different continents, in a different countries, amongst different cultures and languages. And the interesting thing that I've discovered is that we are actually very similar, all of us. Doesn't matter which continent you're from, uh, either in Indonesia or Africa or India or England, or doesn't matter. We're all very similar because we face the same problems daily. And one of these problems is, like you mentioned, Jim, that you sit in a chair. Well, most of the world is sitting in a chair behind the computers. Lots of the people have to stand a lot doing their work. Lots of people have this very forced motion daily that they have to perform in order to work and bring bread to the table. So we actually face the similar physical issues. Also mothers who bear children, you know, the backaches, the worry aches, the emotional aches, the traumas we experience. Actually, I haven't met anybody that I can't relate to. Doesn't matter where I am in the world. And that is one thing that I really love about nowadays, and the ability connecting with the whole world via the internet, that we can actually help each other, support each other, doesn't matter where we are. And this 11-day course is relatable to anybody, doesn't matter where you are. And because we do face the same aches and pains in our bodies and in our hearts. So in that sense, the 11 days is a great crush start for the new beginning, and
You, you,
great new steps.
you just said body and then you said heart. What's the
Yes,
connection?
yes. Heart is actually the one that's pumping blood in the body, so it's a really big connection. But it's also the mental heart. And now we already know today in this century that the mind and the body are connected.
Mm,
Actually, there's a funny story about this because 20 years ago, when I came back to Estonia to start to introduce Pilates technique, because nobody knew anything about it, it was really new. And especially it was new in Europe and Northern Europe. And when I started to teach people that our mind or our head and body are connected, people were looking at me like, "What? How do you mean?" And it was such an alien concept for people to understand that actually what they think is resonates in their body, and what they feel and how they react. So now we already know, and lots of people teach about it. So there's a direct link to our emotions and our bodies. So
Okay, and I understand that interwoven into your teaching practice is the idea of understanding how and why that happens, and then how we release it. Is that right?
Yes. And also in the ancient Chinese medicine and also ancient Indian medicine, there's a lot of connections to certain areas of the body when they ache, that what emotions they relate to or what worries they relate to. And we know that lots of areas like lower back is in terms of, moving forward. The hips is about moving forward. So the fear about future. And I actually like to make it very simple, even though there's a scientific proof behind it. But in a simple way, we can think about our body and our mind the way that if we cut ourselves half around our stomach, then the upper body with our head and hands is about the dreaming part. What we dream, what we imagine, what we want to create of our lives. And the lower part is the one that moves forward in order to enable you to create this move. So it doesn't matter which part is blocked due to injury, due to fears, due to insecurities, um, bad experiences, etc. Either we block the upper body because we don't dare to dream, we're afraid of imagining that something better can come up because we've always had a negative experience, or the blockage is down below because we don't dare to move forward. We're afraid of the future because, again, the past experiences. So that we try to release the tension from upper, to release the dreaming part and the emotional ability to create something better. And then we release the lower body in order to move forward, to take these first steps, because we can't move forward unless we dare to take the first steps. And that's what I'm here for, to help you to take these first steps. And the first 11 days that we can take these steps together and create new habits and new dreams.
That's really interesting, Britt, because even after all the conversations we've had, I'd never heard until now this connection between the upper body being one thing and the lower body being the other, the moving forward part. And so that kind of leads me on to, why are we doing this now in November? I mean, why is now a good time to be talking about this? I mean, we're talking about detox. I said to somebody, I'm doing this detox your body and soul, body and mind for autumn, and they said, yeah, but autumn's almost finished. I said, yeah, that's the point. We're detoxing from what's gone past. So is this about moving forward then? Is this about us looking at this time of year and thinking, oh God, what's coming next?
Yes, I tend to say, well, actually, I just recently thought about this saying and I haven't actually used it. So this is the first time I ever used this saying, is that create your New Year's resolution already today. So don't wait when you passed all the holidays and you've continued the usual, and then after the holidays you're so tired from the holidays and everything, and then you think, ah, maybe next year. So let's create this New Year's resolution today. And let's actually create the changes before the holiday season, so that when we enter into the holiday season, however you have the holidays, you can already create new ways of having these holidays. So
That's
maybe
really
instead of eating a loaf of cake, you actually have a fruit bowl. Or instead of like eating a huge meal, you maybe have a fish or something, nice fresh salads instead of like very heavy. So that let's create already a new beginning today. So when we hit the new year, we can already say we've done it. So we already have the New Year's
wow.
resolution.
Well, firstly, thank you for ruining Christmas for me. No, in all seriousness, so there you go, people. A world exclusive on Catalyfe, original content from Britt Normet. Why don't wait till New Year's resolution to make your resolution?
Yes.
That's brilliant. And I understand there's a reason, because I know something about this from trauma. that when you experience trauma, whether it be physical or emotional, it takes time, obviously, to get to overcome that trauma, but our mind recovers more quickly than our body. Is that correct?
Actually, our minds are very clever because they are really quick to press the trauma down and to forget it in the short time memory or short term memory. But in the long term memory, it stores it in our body and in our long term memory because it enables us to avoid the similar trauma in the future. So scientists have discovered that human body tend to store the negative experiences from life.
Hmm.
You probably have met people, or maybe you've experienced yourself, that how the negative things keep coming up and all the good things that happen. Sometimes you can't even remember the good events that, oh, but I had some nice things with that person as well. Why I only remember the negative? But that's a survival instinct. And that is the reason, the same for animals. And that is the reason we remember the negative experiences in order to protect us in the future. So that when you already come close to similar event where you experience a trauma, that you know to turn around and run. But unfortunately, people tend to have so many different layered experiences, mental, physical, mixture. We also have an imaginary events that happen to us that aren't really real. Sometimes we think that somebody hurt us when they haven't actually done it. They maybe said something carelessly, but because of the past experience, we take it in as a really deep hurt. And we actually end up hurting ourselves deeper than the other person wanted to. So, because of our complex mind, we tend to store so many layers of negativity in our bodies.
Where?
And well, let's start from the legs. When you have a fear of, let's say, fear of the future, you're afraid of what's coming next. You don't like your life at the moment. You maybe don't like your work or you don't like your habits you have, but you tend to have the pain in your legs or in your hips because you're afraid to create the change.
Okay.
So the hips are start to get tightened up because you want to move, but you're afraid or you don't know how. And then the tension stores up in your hips.
Hmm.
Or they say that lower back is a worry about your daily issues. Either it's the money issue, either it's the, how to protect your children, how to provide for your children. So that the lower back, especially for women, tend to ache from that because it's all to do with your motherly instinct, trying to protect, trying to create something that you need to, and also for yourself. I mean, not only motherly instinct, but only also for yourself, to the protection, the comfort zone that we want to create for our daily lives. And then, when we climb further up, when we think about the upper chest, there's all these smartphone positions and the working behind the computer,
Oh,
but
this
also
thing.
that, yes,
Yeah.
and especially like also like this, when the neck is
Ah.
really forward because you watching the smartphone and then the head gets really heavy. And then but also the worry that you carry on your shoulders, which is often the emotional worry, that you're worried about the world, you're worried about your children, you're worried about your life, maybe you're worried about the climate change. So that tends to store up all in your upper chest, so that the almost like the world is carried on your shoulders. And
That's just, we have that cliche in the English language.
yeah,
When you carry the weight of the world on your shoulders.
yeah. So I think it's all relatable at different parts of your body, but I think the overall idea, I mean, from the different philosophies, we can draw for the different ideas of what areas store what. But I think, like I said, I like to simplify it in order to release your upper chest. Remember when in one of the webinars we were looking at the chest, when we tend to roll the shoulders forward,
Ah, yes.
protect the heart, so that your heart's been hurt, your
Mm.
emotions, your feelings, your maybe you've been heartbroken many times, either by your parents or by your friends or by your loved ones or lover. It doesn't matter, so we tend to close up, so we get this hunchback, etc. So everything resonates in our body, and the upper body is about more the emotions that we experience, and the dreams, and the ability to create something. And the lower back is the one that enables us to move forward to create the change. So more you simplify it for yourself, it's easier to let go the tension. Because I also believe, and that's also scientists have agreed by now, that you don't have to often dwell on the negative emotions so much, or the happenings, but it's more of the dwelling on the fact that how to let them go, and how to learn with the little steps, how to learn to trust yourself and give yourself a new chance.
That's very interesting, because about 25 years ago, when I started coaching, we were doing a lot of work in stress management in the workplace. And one of the methodologies that we spoke about is based on neuro-linguistic programming, and also based on the physiological trainings like yoga and presumably now Pilates. As that in order to change how you are experiencing negativity, you don't start with the emotion, you start with the physical state, because the physical state is the easier one to change, and that influences your
Mhm.
emotion. So
Absolutely.
to hear you say that the body stores negative experiences long after our short-term memory has cleverly got us out of the mess, and to hear you say that it's better now to prepare for the change next year that's coming, and to hear you say that this relates to pretty much anyone around the world, regardless of culture or language, because we all face similar challenges, and then to know that you're talking about people who are either sitting down all day or standing all day, like if you're working in a shop, or if you're walking around doing repetitive work a lot, if you're having to move things from one place to another a lot, or if you're just generally overloaded trying to manage your work and your life. Busy working mums is a good category for that. Or any parent, for any single parent, for example, who juggles a career with childcare. So this is why you created this retreat, to bring it all together into one package that deals. I don't remember you working specifically that you start with the lower back. Does that include hips?
Yes, absolutely. A
Yeah.
lower back and the hip area is strongly related, because the lower back is protected by the seat area and the hips and the back of the thighs. So yes, it's all
The
related.
seat area. That's the most
Yeah.
diplomatic way of describing that area I've ever heard of. That's fantastic. I'm borrowing that one. So you start with the seat area and go all the way to the top of the neck and the head.
Yes, yes. Even though Pilates is a technique that always involves the full body, but we do focus on the different areas, and especially when we come to the upper back, then we focus on the posture, how to relax the shoulders, and how to build up the muscles, because you know how the good posture also resonates the person's confidence and ability to present themselves. And when
Mhm.
you hunched forward, you kind of protecting and you're scared. So I think when we build up the muscles to hold our back straight, it already builds the confidence to take a new step. So I think
Absolutely.
yeah, we mustn't underestimate the physical aspect of our emotional state, because good physical, and I don't mean the all the beauty idols, that you don't have to be tremendously skinny or this and that, but you have to be fit. You need to be strong, you need to be fit, so that you're able to enjoy moving around, creating your own life and creating the changes. so I think it's the most important thing is to start to build up the strength as well. One thing is to let go and stretch out, but also the strength. So Pilates is a great technique in that sense. It creates everything together. There's breath, there's stretch, there's strength, there's precision of the movement, and there's this endurance of like you during through the motion. So it's a great combination, and when you think about it, it really lets the emotion roll at the same time.
Fabulous, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of this stuff. But before we get there, could you take a few moments to talk us through that? Because I know you do lower back. What is it? Spine, upper back, and neck. Is it like 4 areas or 5 areas?
Yes, we had we started from the lower back in the sense
Hmm.
of building the core area and building the strong seat and building the back of the thighs so we can stand up and move. We put a lot of focus on the stretch part as well to breathing the tension out from the body.
Hmm.
We also build up all the spine muscles around the waist area. Then we focused on the up of the shoulders to getting them relaxed and nicely floating onto the right space by building the core underneath it. Then we focused on the arms, stretching, and of course the upper back and neck is related. So we also relax the neck and move the neck a little bit. So we covered the full body.
So is this what? So I heard you use the word core earlier, but you're talking about the
Mhm.
core seat. Because whenever I've done training before, we talk about core strength. That always seems to be about thorax and abdominal area. But what do you mean by core
Core
center?
is the abdominal area,
It is the
but
abdominal area.
yes, but in Pilates, the hip and seat part is also part of the core in the sense that it's the one that you stand on. So if you think about, even if you sit, let me move a little bit further back. So even if you sit on your heels, I need the seat muscles in order to lift myself into the nice, straight, upright position.
Can we see a side
So
profile of that?
yeah, so I
That's a
use
very
the seat
straight back.
muscle.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, because if my seat is loose, look what happens. I
Mm.
sink.
You
Because
hunch.
only with the core muscles, I can't keep myself up. I need the seat. So the seat and back of the thighs is a part of we call it in Pilates the powerhouse that gives you the power and strength. And also the emotional power, because here we have the solar plexus that is often used as the emotional center. And so when we build the strength around it, we have the column to carry the upper back on. So the shoulders, they don't tense up if you have the strength in your core area. So the shoulders can just sit on top of the pillar. I think of it as a pillar, and then you sit the shoulders, and then your neck just floats. So when everything is strong here, your neck just floats. It doesn't have to tense up. It's all free. And then you're free to use your arms in every way you want if
Wow.
your strength is here. So it's all about creating this pillar underneath you.
Can you tell us a little bit more? Thank you. That's amazing, and that's great posture. And you got me really self-conscious now about sitting in the chair. We'll come to that in a minute. But what I'm interested now is when you mentioned the emotional part of being around the core. So, what's the direct connection between this part of your body storing emotion and then using your Pilates techniques to release not only the tension but to release the emotion? How does that work practically?
When we work on the muscles in Pilates, we work the muscles on all layers. We're trying to connect through the exercises to the deeper layers of the muscles as well, not just the surface muscle, not to have only the six pack, but all the other rectus abdominals layers as well. And when we work on the deeper layers of the muscle, they tend to massage on the inner guts. So when you massage this area, what you do is you get the toxins floating out because you massage against, with the muscles, you massage against the inner guts. So it releases the toxins. It enables the blood circulation to improve in your inner guts. And due to that, when you stimulate this area, you also build up the serotonin, which is the happy hormone, and dopamine. And when you build these up, you almost like you start to float on this emotion when you finish the workout. And Pilates tends to stir up a little bit more of dopamine and serotonin during the workout because it stimulates the stomach area a lot.
Is that any different to this phrase I've heard you use, parasympathetic? Help me out.
Parasympathetic?
That's the one. Paras. See, I still can't say it.
Parasympathetic.
Parasympathetic. Parasympathetic system. Is this
Yes.
the same? So is that, does that serve as a really good explanation as to what those two words mean that I'm not going to try and repeat?
Yes.
Okay, that's,
Yes, that's
I
it.
have to say that's the clearest definition I've ever heard of that, because I've heard this phrase before and then, oh, what is that? I must ask
Yeah.
what it is. So you've actually answered it before I got around to asking it. So thank you.
Oh,
So
excellent.
that's the center bit. So, and then you're talking about shoulders hunching that's connected to heartache. And
Well,
I
a
don't
lot.
necessarily, I mean, emotional heartache.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it again logically, if if this part is your emotional kind of a center for your love and compassion and acceptance and friendship and all kinds of this other emotions related to other human beings, if we can say it this way, then when we hunch over, what does it mean? I close this area. Why?
Mm.
Because I don't want to get hurt anymore. I don't want anybody to see this area. I don't want anybody to touch it or touch it as a emotionally. So it's almost like you close yourself up. Now, in order to open, you need to first let the deep pain go and the bitterness go. And that was one of the webinars we had, I think, a year
Yeah,
back when we
yeah.
talked about the forgiveness.
Mm.
And I think forgiveness is a lot to do with our physical, all kinds of tensions, starting from hips, starting from lower back pain, starting for the hunchback. So forgiveness is something, or unforgiveness is something that really tends to tense us up.
And
So
where else? Sorry.
when we let things go that have happened to us, and when we understand how to let them go, then we release this area and we say, yes, a new person come into my life and I take a risk again, risk of loving or caring or accepting.
That's great. Thank you. And I know you're going to go into greater depth on that on the videos in your course. Quick question about connections again. So this effect, where else does this impact in your body? What else? Because everything's connected. So what else is negatively impacted when you do this?
Lots of people get severe headaches. So
Hmm.
when you tense up your shoulders and when you hunch forward, you tend to close the circulation that goes right into your head, and it tense up the muscles that carry your head. So when you block the circulation, you start to get headaches. Headache is also something that tries to block things that you don't want to see or feel or experience. So the overall protection, a lot of people tend to get headaches from overly worrying or not trusting. I've met quite a few people in my practice that have migraines. And then when you hear their story, because especially when you work with people privately or with a very small group, 2 or 3 people together, they tend to open up and tell you their story. And I can really relate the migraines. And of course, there could be also a medical issues related to that. But overall, that has come to my attention is not trusting somebody with your life or with your children. So there's the mistrust, the fear of and that tends to close everything up here, and eventually you have the severe headache. So I think everything is emotional related because you can't disconnect your body, emotions, your head, your heart. It's all one whole thing. And that's why now, after 20 years of working mostly through Pilates, I've studied alongside aromatherapy, how to use the natural remedies, plant oils, and just plant diffusions for health, how to use the emotional, mm, letting go the different emotions. So it's a holistic approach to a body. You can't separate them.
I smell a fresh course in there.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's coming. I know that's coming. Let's sorry, stick with where we're at. So continuing this theme then on release and the interconnectedness and everything, and then coming back to the real world, sort of right now, for example, you're in a lovely large room with a nice mat. I'm in an office in a chair.
Yeah.
What can I do at the moment, and anyone else who's sat at home sitting down, what can we do in our daily work life to help us overcome this stored up emotional or physical tension?
Well, let's start from the simple upper back stretches. I think that's something that really opens the circulation up again and really refreshes the mind. So if you have the arm chair with your armrest, you can support your left hand on your armrest. So you can show us. Yes,
Hand on the armrest.
yes, the left hand on the armrest. And you can either squeeze the left hand to a strong fist or you
On.
stretch the fingers out. Yes. So
Okay.
you really feel your fingers, either strong fist or strong fingers. So rest, you stretch the right hand to the ceiling
I need a bigger camera. Right hand to the
and
ceiling.
you stretch over the
What
left
am I doing
hand.
about? Is my head following my shoulder or looking at the fingers?
Look straight forward. Look
Look
straight
straight forward.
forward. Yes. So you keep on looking at the camera and stretch as far as you can go and you come up again.
Ah,
And you stretch the fingertips to the ceiling, trying to touch the ceiling. Yes, it's a really, really long arm. And now you follow the fingers. So it's almost like somebody's pulling you from the fingers. That's really important that you stretch all the way
feel it,
through.
feel it.
Yes, and you come and release.
I actually feel it in my lower back as well, which is surprising.
Exactly. You feel the hips, you feel the lower back, the whole thing. So we take the other arm, you stretch the fingers really long, and the supportive arm is also strong fist. And now stretch the fingers across the room. Think about somebody's pulling you on your fingers. So you really get as far as you can go, and you come back to the center.
You can't see this, but Erica's off camera now, pulling my hand. Oh, she's not.
Oh, that's good.
I'm
That's
kidding.
good. That's really nice. If somebody can give you that hinge, what I do in a studio for clients, I pull them from the fingers. They really feel it.
So
Now
that
let's
genuinely
try.
helps.
It really helps.
Wow.
Now let's try one more with a breath.
Okay.
So you inhale the fingers to the ceiling, and now you exhale the tension out.
Wow.
And you inhale yourself back up to the ceiling, and you rest your arm. Now, another very simple exercise, which really helps us to get rid of the tension. And sometimes, like we said in the middle, that if you can't tackle the emotion, especially sometimes, I think, especially for men, it's really relatable. They don't want to talk about their like things that they were hurt by. They're not really good at talking about emotions. It's really good to tackle the emotions physically so
Yeah.
they get rid of the anxiety without actually having to talk about it. So now stretch both arms up to the diagonal and again feel like somebody's pulling you apart. And now you do big circles behind you and
Oh,
up.
behind. Okay.
And you go as far behind as you can and come up. And far behind and up. So you really think about up.
What's the breathing?
Inhale and exhale out.
Oh, inhale down,
Inhale
exhale up.
Inhale when you go back And from down up you come, exhale. Inhale and exhale. It's almost like you're throwing everything out. And
It's like doing
exhale.
backstroke swimming.
Yes. And exhale and relax the arms.
I feel that everywhere.
Yes. And it's really simple. But the key word to remember is the full stretch. So you really stretch all the way through. And actually in Pilates, we use the word reach. So you
Reach.
actually feel like you're reaching your fingertips towards something. So you have like you have a purpose for that movement.
I remember that
Another,
word reach. Yeah. Go on.
yes, reach is a good. Now when you put your hand on the 90-degree angle by your side and you squeeze a strong fist, Jim, you can try that as well. And now when you take it across and you pull it across and give it a nice stretch for your upper back. And now as you go back, you let the other hand go and you pull it behind you.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And now again, you take hold of the elbow, you pull it across, and now you take it behind you. And you relax. It's a quite deep, yes. Now let's take the other hand as well. Otherwise, we get, if people behind the camera, if you try, so you get both arms stretched. So you stretch across, and then you pull it behind you. And again, you inhale as you stretch across, and exhale when you pull behind. And rest. So that's an easy way of opening your chest. And without you thinking, the tension is already releasing. Do you feel
It
better,
works.
Jim?
It actually works. It's amazing.
It does work.
And I've never experienced this in a chair before. And you could do this anyway. You could do this, well, depending, you could do it on some plane seats, I guess. But yeah.
Actually, there was a time when I wanted to create this whole series for the airplane seat. But unfortunately, as when I started traveling, I was quite young because I lived in England. I had to fly back and forth quite a lot. And then we still had there was room around the airplane seat. I don't know if you remember, Jim, that was 20 years ago. There was room in the
Yeah.
airplane. And now, as the time went by, the room got tighter and tighter and tighter. And then one time when I decided to create this whole series for the airplane, I realized that even I can't fit to do them because there's no room.
Nope.
So when you stretch your arm out, you're already tackling to the ceiling. So I decided not to do that.
Especially that middle seat.
Yes. Oh, that's a nightmare.
But thank you for this. This really helps. And I'll remember that word reach. And it's actually a very important word to use right now because we have reached, can you believe it? We're 50 minutes in, gone already. So we've
Wow.
reached a point. If Audrey, if you have any questions, because you've already said you're a Pilates teacher. If you have a question for Britt, this is a good time to ask it. And in the meantime, I will remind anyone watching the recording, for example, my colleague is going to Erica's going to drop in some links now to follow us on social media. Audrey does have a question, actually. She's probably typing now, but Erica will post some links in. You can follow us on Facebook, you can follow us on Instagram, you can follow us on LinkedIn, and also on YouTube. We've got more coming from Britt as well as others. Britt, you've already mentioned, I think now 2 possible courses.
Yes.
Yes. So in relation to this one, while Audrey is there we go. There's the question. I'm going to show it right now. So, I'll get it in a second. There we go. Here's Audrey's question. How can we relax the neck and shoulders? A quick tip there for neck and shoulders.
For neck and shoulders, it's really important to do this mini exercise beforehand. So you lift the shoulders by your ears and you relax them down. You lift them up and you relax them down. You can have the hands hanging by your side. So you lift them up and you relax them down. Then another is the circles. So when you go front, back, it's really nice to go slowly and really massage the shoulders. And then you go from back
So
to front.
let's have a look at that. Anything to do with breath?
Yes, you just breathe gently and like softly while you're moving. Then another is like having the bigger like arm circle for the shoulder, depending what the problem is, of course, for the person who has tightness, but I think most people today have tightness. Then the same, the stretch, which we used before, the having the strong fist and the 90-degree of hand and you get a nice stretch, but careful on the lower back. And of course, like we mentioned also that to build the core strength, which Pilates does very well, that's inevitable in order to create the rest here. Because if there's no strength, then the shoulders will have to hold the head and the smartphone and the computer position on your head. But the moment you have strength around your core, these can relax and your neck can stretch out and doesn't have to hold it anymore. So when you work simultaneously, work on the core and trying to relax the shoulders with these mini exercises.
Fabulous. Thank you, Britt, for that. And Adria, thank you for the question. Efaristo, I think that's right. If it's not, correct me. Oh yes, she says thank you so much. That's great. That's good to know. But I know you've got, I mean, the course itself is packed with detailed descriptions of how you do these exercises, and I believe it's what have you got, like, is it on average 15 minutes a day for 11 days?
Yes, it's a nice 15 minutes a day. It's easy to follow. It's pretty safe for anybody to use. Of course, cautious if you have any injuries, but it's a great thing to use for clients as well, Andrea, if you want to use it on your clients to build up the core strength. So there's lots of really nice key elements to use them in the studio as well.
Excellent. How do people find your course, Britt? How will people find it?
It's on the Catalyfe webpage.
Excellent. Catalyfe.com. If
Yes.
my colleague can get a link, I will actually show you. In fact, there it is.
Yes, that's a little clip from the video. So as you can see, I also look amazed how wonderfully Pilates works. So join me, definitely.
That's you talking about your life in Paris, I think, if I remember rightly. So
Okay.
just to remind anyone watching, the first video in that course is free to view, which will set the context for what's in the course, and you can see underneath that how the days progress. If you were able to scroll down, you'd see day 9, 10, and 11. And you see that the structure is you deal with the lower back, which Britt is split into 3 parts. And then the spine has also got 3 parts, and the upper back and the neck after that as well, I think, Britt, isn't it?
Yes. Neck is the final.
So there's a link on there, catalyfe.com/course/11-day Pilates retreat. And it's the perfect time of year to be doing it, as Britt has said. There's the link in the chat. Thank you, Erica. So I'll come back to the view now. Remind us, Britt, why should we be doing it before New Year? This wonderful world exclusive statement of yours.
Oh, it's better to start with a New Year's resolution now so you can build healthier and better holiday season for yourself already. And then when you start the new year, you're already there with your new resolution.
Fabulous. And now you told me to have a salad instead of a big Christmas dinner.
No, you can also have a dinner, but you can improve it with some fresh salads and, instead of huge cake, you can have a fruit bowl and little cake and, you can play around. So you don't have to, you can keep the traditionals, but you can add little fresh bits and pieces so that they can relate to your new you 2.0.
You 2.0, the true you 2.0.
Yes.
Britt, that's amazing. Thank you so much. It's incredible how quickly the time goes in these things. I'm so thrilled that you're with us. I greatly personally value your expertise. I am going to do the 11-day challenge, and yes, you can hold me to that.
Great. Let's everybody hold Jim to it.
No, everybody. So yeah, you can hold me to that. I will do it. I'll feed back to you how it goes. I'll drop some comments in the Catalyfe Facebook feed, for example, on what it feels like. And that chair exercise, that one.
Yes.
Brilliant. I mean, I'm so much loose now. It's great.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us today. And thank you to anybody watching on Facebook. Great to see you, even though I can't see you. If you're watching the recording, don't forget you can always leave some comments on our Facebook channel, or you can write to us. Let us know what you think. And if you're buying the course, let us know what you thought of it. That's also crucial, because I know, Britt, you'll be very keen to get some feedback on how people have received it.
Absolutely. And any questions you have and any support you need, we're here for you. And we're here to support you throughout the whole process. And we will meet in the end in another live webinar, Q&A webinar. But during the process, you're welcome to leave us questions and we're happy to answer.
Absolutely. We'll do a follow-up. Thank you very much. Adria says she has to leave. She has a lesson. Good luck with that lesson, Adria. And thank you for being with us. As Erica says there, thank you for being with us. Hope to see you again. Britt, before we leave, I always like to leave the last word to our presenters. Just before I ask you that question, I will say to everybody watching the recording, stay safe, stay sane, stay healthy. Winter is okay. It's a time to look inwards and then look forwards. So, Britt, last word from you. What's the single best piece of advice you can give us based on what you've spoken today?
I think the final thing is to be your own butterfly effect. Give yourself a new chance. We are so happy that you're alive, you're with us, and give yourself a new chance. And we will be here with you to support you.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Britt. Look forward to seeing you again. And to everybody else, have a wonderful, wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world.